Hey, welcome to Loose Change, still available on vinyl. I'm Jim Evans, thanks for joining us, and you will be so glad you did. As always, we will be talking about one of the best sports stories in the area this year for sure. That's coming right up, so hang with us. So what's been going on? Greg, I went to the movies recently, and I saw A Star is Born. And I have to admit, I cried when I saw the price of popcorn and pop on top of the tickets. Gee whiz. Hey, not many tears shed for former Browns coach Hugh Jackson. As you know, he was relieved of his duties. Also on the same day, the Browns fired offensive coordinator Todd Haley just an hour later. So with that, for the time being, they've had to modify the coaching staff some. Now they have a guy who will oversee the offensive line, a guy who will oversee the defensive line, and a guy who will oversee the unemployment line. So not to take that going. How about the Steelers game against the Jaguars down in Jacksonville? Wow. Steelers were trailing 16-0 and then came back, you might have seen it, and won in the final seconds. Now remember, the game was in Florida, so that means a recount. It's always Florida, isn't it? Gee whiz, what's with them down there? What else sports stuff? Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott got in a car crash a little over a year ago. I don't know if you heard about that. And now he's being sued for over $1 million. Now, he was cited for going left of center, but he still maintains that he just hit the A-gap. And, of course, we're hitting the busy holiday shopping season, and extra busy, as always, for Walmart. And I saw something about how they're going to try and better manage their loss prevention, theft. In fact, you can see it on Walmart's TV channel, the Home Shoplifting Network. Hey, don't leave your home spot. Brian Marrow joins us next, right here on Loose Change. Hang with us.
You see our vans every day. They travel the length of our broadband network, bringing you the best services available. Our technicians and representatives are knowledgeable, available, and nationally recognized as being among the very best in the business. We're a regular presence in our community, always ready to lend a hand. We're Armstrong, a leader in the broadband industry. Your friends and neighbors, taking pride in our jobs, and a real partner in making our community a better place.
Welcome back to Loose Change. I'm Jim Evans. I had the great pleasure to be joined by the head football coach of the East Golden Bears, the one, the only Brian Marrow. Coach, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Sure appreciate it.
Sure.
For those who don't know you or know of you, what we like to have our guests do off the top is just give us a little background information about yourself, where you went to school and how your career took shape.
Oh, well, I'm a local guy.
Yep.
Youngstown South High, under the great Bob Stoops.
Warriors.
Yes, the Warriors on that last 10-0 team we had back in '79.
Yeah.
Went on to play at Wisconsin University. Had a trial with 49ers, and then played a little bit in the Canadian League, Toronto Argonauts. And didn't have any aspirations of coaching, but in my old church in New Bethel, Pastor Simon called me when they took over a Little League team, wanted me to coach, and my first thought was like, I don't want to coach, I'm content with what I'm doing, working, and he's like, they wouldn't take no for an answer. And coached there for about 7-8 years, and then Tim Kelty called me, wanted me to take over the Wilson job when they were getting ready to close. Yeah. He just wanted the kids to be competitive because they weren't competitive at all. And he said, I think you're a guy that can help, motivate these kids, at least let them have some fun a few years. And we did that, and then coached at Youngstown Christian. Right. Didn't want to coach. Like I said, didn't have any aspirations of coaching. That was just a crazy, weird story in itself where I was involved with Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and we had a Bible study group, Lance Hartshorn.
Yeah.
And we used to meet at where was it? I was going to say Perkins, Bob Evans in Austintown, every Tuesday morning before we go to our jobs early in the morning, going over this book called Spiritual Leadership. And we got done with the book, and I was like, wow, I wish I would have saw this or read this book earlier, or went over this study earlier, because all my life I had just been, just turning down leadership jobs. Like I said, going back to, when Pastor Simon called me, wanted me to coach, I was like, nah, Tim Kelty, nah, I didn't really want to do it, because I was content with the little league guys. And at my job, they wanted me to be a supervisor. 4 months into my job, I thought I wasn't ready for that. I was never pursuing none of these jobs. Yeah. And so I was like, man, it must be a calling on me for, to keep getting all these jobs or positions that I'm not even pursuing, and it's like leadership positions. I'm like running away from them. And at the end of that study, I'll never forget, they going over prayer requests by different guys, and Lance, he was kind of jokingly saying, I'm going to pray for Brian to stop running away from leadership. And it had to be maybe like 2 weeks later, maybe even less than that. I was going to take a job with Mooney as assistant coach. Okay. Ron Stoops had called me and said, he wanted a guy. Well, actually, Mike Claret called me for Ron Stoops and said they were getting ready to revamp their coaching staff, the Golden Cardinal Club, and they want to do some things. And one of my name was one of the first guys to come up as an assistant. And even back then, I had to go back. I was like, nah, I don't want to coach you. I got Chris Emil coaching the little league with us. He's a Mooney guy. Yeah. He'll love to coach high school, and he went ahead and did it. Yeah. And then, like I said, later when they kept pursuing me about coaching in high school, I took that Wilson job. Didn't have any experience of coaching in high school or anything. And so then from that, I told my wife this will be a couple of years, then we won't, have to worry about coaching anymore. Because she said, that's a lot of time, as you know. Yep. And they said, no, come on, man, come on. I said, okay, we did that. And then that's when I got the call about the Mooney position. And I said, well, honey, I know I said we weren't going to coach anymore, but, Ron Stoops told me, he said, this would be an opportunity, let your daughter go to, get some private school education. We could pay for that, just a stipend for you coaching. He said, it won't even be hard for you because you'll be a receiver coach. We don't throw the ball as much. They just want you there. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And I accepted it. So then going back to that Bible study group, then I get a call from Mike Pecchia telling me that their coach that they just started their football program maybe 3 years. And they said, our coach is going to Florida. I want you to be the head coach. And the first thing out of my mouth was, don't you want to open up to the public? I'm coaching at Mooney. I just took a job, just got hired there. He wouldn't take no for an answer either. And I'm like, I literally hit myself in the head. It's like, oh my goodness, here it is again. God is giving me another job. And I'm like, I just said I need to start running away from leadership. And took that. And then, we had some success there.
Sure did, yeah.
That was fun. I'm thinking that's where I was supposed to be. But, it was another plan on my life for that. And then I get a call from Rick Shepard later after, he made a change at Youngstown Christian. And he went to Valley Christian, of course. Yep. And so here I am now with Shep. Grateful for that phone call because I think this, again, I'm thinking this is what I'm supposed to be doing now, but who knows? You never know what God does for you. So.
Well, the Cleveland Browns have the head coaching opening, so
oh, wow,
they have the phone standing by. But what was it, once you got into coaching, what was it that grabbed you, even at the youth level, that
just being able to help kids, just to be a servant. And I found out being a leader is, is servant. You got to be a servant, and just helping kids, young men, just pouring into their lives, try to do positive things with them. And I always said I want guys to grow up to be great, great husbands, great fathers, great men, just productive, God-fearing men, and just to be able to do something in their community. And whether if you don't go to school, we push. Obviously, we want to push everyone to go to school, get an education, but the school is not for everyone. Right. Just to mentor kids that were struggling, and I don't know. It just feels good just being able to help kids. So
that's it. Pretty much every coach I talk to, and that's one of the things that they hit on, that it's about the kids, it's about the student athletes, and it's about molding young guys into young men.
Right, and then I always wanted to be competitive, and I always said that winning is not the most important thing. It's up here, but like what I said about molding young men. But I said winning is right underneath the touching it, because like you want to teach them to have fun and everything too, and that's a good tool, an instrument to make sure that they you can get on that pathway.
And that's the thing about sports, but even more so team sports, how it teaches life lessons that
Right.
kids can take, beyond football and school.
Absolutely, we want them to try to make a change in this, in their schools, in the community, and we always told the kids, if we have fun and we win games, you'll see an impact on changing your school, changing your community. I want them to be the leaders in the school, just to teach them to act the right way, to respect their teachers, and just go in there and learn and be leaders, show them how to do things the right way. And then, we had success this year to get the community behind us. That was unbelievable. I mean, guys, it was not only just from East High, we got guys that graduated from the 50s and the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
And, even like my old coach, Coach Stoops, he's an East High guy. Don Butch, he's an East High guy. All these guys were just like, man, we're excited about East High football. And then obviously that was only city school, and then everyone in the city, and then even outside the city, a lot of friends that I have in the suburbs and out of the state calling, just supporting us. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, great. Yeah, of course, you mentioned, South High. The City Series was such a good thing for such a long time.
Oh,
That had to be a great experience for you.
Oh, yes, it was. Absolutely. With so much talent. I've been telling guys a lot lately. On my street alone, I grew up on Dellison, 325 West Dellison. But, I was born on the north side and then moved to the Kimmelbrook Projects. And then from there, we moved to the south side when I was like 6, 7 years old. Mm-hmm. And but on my street alone, like, I lived 4 houses from the corner. I went to University of Wisconsin. This is our senior year team. About 6 houses up, Willie Green went to Arizona State. Greg Anderson, about 4 or 5 houses up, went to Southern Illinois. And then Garcia Lane, he lived there for a little while before they moved on Wabash. He lived on the second house from the corner, Ohio State. And we both went on to be captains facing each other in the Big Ten. And then they had 3 younger brothers after me, Division I. So we had 7 Division I guys on our one block on the same side of the street. So that was just our street. But then a couple of streets down, we had Brian Washington at Kent State, Scott Ivey, Cincinnati, and it's just so many more guys, and they just in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then you had the Stoops family, like on the other, on the south side. Look at all, what they're doing. The south side was just always loaded with talent.
I grew up right up several blocks up from South High School.
Oh, yeah.
I remember going to all the games when I was, a young kid, and Ted Bell lived several
Right.
blocks
Ted Bell's
down,
on Chicago,
down the street.
yeah.
So hey, we're close there, but that it still has special memories for me, that area, and going to see those games, the City Series, and even the Steel Valley games. The teams that would come in down there. That was a special place at South High.
Absolutely. And now, I'm sure you heard about what they're trying to do now, Rick Shepard's.
Inform us while you're on it.
I know they're trying to form the City Series / Steel Valley again. So next year, it'll be East, Cheney, Mooney, and Ursuline, and they'll try to expand from there. I don't want to say it's officially, but it's sure. It's in the works, and I'm sure it should happen.
Wow, would a lot of people be for that?
Oh, yeah,
for sure. Who you mentioned a lot of coaches, but were there coaches that you have emulated, or taken from to kind of mold into your coaching philosophy?
Coach Stoops. When we were at South, I didn't even want to really even go to South. It was growing up on the South Side. It was all the little league teams that win championships, and then you had 2 junior highs, Princeton and Hillman.
I went Princeton.
And we would either Princeton win a championship or Hillman, and they would go together. In the South, and before we got there, they weren't that good. And I was thinking about going to Mooney, and then I was like, really was going to go to Rand, because my grandmother lived on the north side and right next to Tony Haywood and Sterling. And their mother, Jackie Hay, was my godmother, and Terry Taylor's godmother.
Oh, wow.
And we all grew up together, so I think I was going to go to Rand. And Coach Stoops, when he got the job, he came in and was like, no, you guys, we're going to make sure you guys do good. We're going to do good. We're going to turn the program around. Yep. My first year, we went 6-3-1, and then 8-2, and then 10-0. And the thing that I learned from him was about pride. And it was, here's a white guy telling us about you got to have pride in your community, black pride. You got to, just turn your program around. You guys got to come together, love each other, be brothers. And that's the same thing I talk about today. But he was number one in the forefront, was a guy that instilled that in me as a coach, other than my dad. and then Roland Smith was on our staff. Okay. He was a young coach coming out of Arkansas. He played a little bit in the pros, and he was my defensive back coach. Bob Mansfield and Scotty McDonald, Domesco. It was a bunch of guys.
A lot of great names there.
Yeah, in my high school, and those guys were just amazing, father figures for us outside of our own dads, and they just taught us a lot.
We're going to take a quick break. Still a lot more to go, and we're going to talk about those Golden Bears here. Brian Marrow with us. We'll be right back after this here on Loose Change.
Unified Voice from Armstrong Business Solutions is the last phone system you'll ever need. Choose from multiple high-definition phones and over 50 features, including video chat, conferencing, and virtual room collaboration. Unified Voice is cloud-based. New capabilities are continually added through Armstrong's high-quality, reliable network. Plus, it's affordable. Pay for only what you need with predictable monthly expenses and no surprises. Focus on your business, not your phone system. Unified Voice from Armstrong Business Solutions. Your business is our business.
Back on Loose Change, along with Brian Marrow. I'm Jim Evans, and Coach, boy, that's a heck of a nice shirt, and it's great that they went back to the Golden Bears.
Yes,
as they did, and it's fantastic what happened this season with you guys, and it may be, if not if there's any debate on it, the story of the year. It's certainly right up there. And talk about what your feelings were about this group coming into this season. Did you feel that they could achieve what they did?
Yeah, I was, blessed to come in at the time that I did. Like you said, coming back to the name, the first year we came in, we did get hired like 2 weeks before two-a-days, so we didn't have an off season the year before. But after the season, with the guys we had coming back, and a couple of transfers coming in, Coach Kyler, adding him to the staff. He's a great coach. We actually did, in off-season, talk about our goal was actually going to the state, and that's why I'm getting a funny feeling in my stomach now, because it's still upsetting that was actually a goal of ours, and a lot of people in the beginning, they probably couldn't see it, and we told everyone in the weight room we were working out, no one's going to believe that but us in this room. And you usually say that to your teams, but we genuinely felt that with the players we had, that we can make a run. And it even goes back to, excuse me, I was in Charlotte last year in November. My wife is a city council clerk, and we were at a conference with her. And she was like, next year, honey, we're going to L.A. The National Convention is in L.A., and I usually travel with her, use some of my vacation days. I just have to buy my plane flight and everything. And I said, great, I'll get to see my friends, Willie Green, and the guy I was just talking about, Anderson, Tweet Anderson, he played basketball with us, Jeff Traylor. And I was like, that'd be great for us, that'd be a great trip. And, and then I'm looking at my phone, just looking at, I was always wanting to see scores and everything, and I see the scores coming up for the playoffs or the schedule. And I looked at it, and I looked at her, and I said, honey, I can't even go, next year. She said, because she said that we have to do our flights early and book everything because everything fills up. And when I told her, I said, I can't even go. She said, why not? I said, we're going to be in the playoffs next year this time. And she looked at me sarcastically, just like, oh, okay, all right, honey, like with a smirk.
Whatever you say.
Yeah, sure. And then she said it later on. She said, you serious? Because she started talking about it again. I said, yeah. And then we get home, and then a little bit later, I don't know when it was, but she was starting to make plans for it, and she said, about the trip again. I said, I can't. We're going to be in the playoffs. She said, you really think you'll be in the playoffs? I said, I really believe. I'm pretty sure we will be. With the guys we have, I don't see why we can't. And she was like, okay. And then it came to fruition that we made it. But it ended on a sour note, but
Well,
we played a great player who's doing real well now. That's why it kind of hurts now because, for them to knock off, Hubbard to knock off Steubenville, and they're still playing now. I was like, man, we should have had that rematch with Hubbard, even though we beat them.
of course, that was Gerard, with the playoff game.
Yeah, but it was a great season,
Sure.
beating a couple of teams that were Canfield being number one, that was a signature win. Well, before that, Poland, and then beating Hubbard. They were the third-ranked team in the state at the time, and playing Harding close. But we lost our quarterback, Zane, kind of in the first half. But our guys persevered through all that adversity and played pretty strong. So I'm very proud of them and grateful for the season we had. God really blessed us this year. But
What made them a special group? What was it that you maybe single out?
oh, just knowing that we had talent, and just they worked hard in the off season. They bought into what we were talking to them about all off season, and they really believed it too. And even in that first game, losing to Boardman, guys were mad, upset. We felt we should have won, even though the score didn't indicate how close it was. Losing Giovanni, that he had a big run, he got hurt, and but Boardman was tough, and we played him tough, but it's like, okay, these guys. I mean, we played them like we think we should have, but we could. I mean, not like we should have, but just knowing they were a solid group of young men that was buying in everything.
Next year, Cheney now will have varsity football, correct?
Yes.
And some of your guys, because of where they live, will be over there. Talk about that.
Yes, it's we're going to split. It's going to be east side and west side again, but there's so much talent. Like we were talking earlier, like in Youngstown, with the little league system that we have in place, and Rick Shupp has done a great job of putting us as an umbrella over the system, and we're getting the kids. We have a basketball rec league that we oversee, even in the football season, of course, and just building a relationship with the kids and their parents, just to try to keep all the kids in. And if we do that, I don't see a problem with Cheney and East being good even into the future. We have Youngstown Early College that kids could come into, because that's no excuse for them. They talk about the academics, and we have great Principal Bachelor and Mr. K over at Cheney, who's working diligently to get the academics turned around inside the two schools, and they're doing a great job. Our administrators, they're just awesome, and we see a change happening. But when Shep has got the job, he and I talked about that. If we can keep all our kids in the city, like I said, Mooney and Ursuline, you have legacy families, their kids, their parents went there, brothers and sisters. We want to go after them too, but it was unacceptable for kids that go to Harding and Fitch and Hubbard and Liberty outside if you're living in Youngstown. Right. Because it is such a great number of talent still in Youngstown right now. If you come to these games in Little League and junior high and see these kids, they're unbelievable.
I'll bet, yeah. You touched earlier on Chris Emile. Now he's slated to be the head coach at Cheney. Is that correct?
Yes, he is. He's going to do a great job there. He's a great coach. He was Mooney's coordinator for years, defensive coordinator. We coached in Little League together. It's like a young brother to me. He's going to do a great job there. I mean, it's going to hurt for us to lose him, but we still have a great staff that I believe at East High still.
You mentioned the commitment of your kids this year, and obviously that goes along with winning. Did you have any of the rugby team won state, right?
Touch on
Did you have some of those kids?
Oh yeah,
good.
I think it might have been maybe like 4 or 5 guys that didn't play football on our team. You had a couple of guys from other schools because it's a club sport. If their school didn't have it, they were allowed to play. But the heart of the team, there were some football players in there, and Bill Burton did a great job with that. And that was another great move by Shepard coming in, saying that we get our kids to play rugby. And he found out that Bill was a coach. He had club teams, and that gave us momentum going into the season for those guys to win and they believe and see things can get done at East High. So that was a great move.
Well, they won it all the first year, right? That was the first year for that.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Incredible, right?
Absolutely. So.
That's how much talent's there.
Yeah, for sure. What have you What would you say is the biggest change, if any, that you've seen with kids since you were playing and got into coaching to now, if there's anything that stands out?
The biggest change?
Yeah.
I don't know, just trying to make sure they believe they can do anything now. I don't know. I'm sure, excuse me,
Sure.
they've been told that before, but I mean, we push that to them every day. They see, you know, what we've done in the past, you know, getting guys on our staff, like I said, Kyler, who's been successful, and Tamron Smith, you know, he's a Hall of Fame guy. He's on our, and our whole staff. Pastor Donaldson is my pastor now. He's a receiver coach. He was they won a national championship. You know, like again, Tamron, James Stafford won a national championship. Youngblood, Dan, I mean, we have so many guys that were successful in college and successful even coaching. So, and again, that's just a great vision by Chris Mohip and Shepherds to put us together and get these type of guys around our kids. I think that's a huge difference.
Well, as you know, I mean, every head coach will say it, they're as good as their staffs, and it's so critical to have the right guys working with you, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
Our area, I mean, it's been a little while since we've done a state football champ, but nonetheless, we still are well represented in the playoffs, and we still have pretty good football around here, don't we?
Oh, yeah. Yes, we do.
Talk about that.
It's always been like that. Ever since, you know, when I was a kid, you know, Youngstown has just always been known across the country. You know, when I was at Wisconsin, I used to always talk about that. I used to get on some guys' nerves, like from around the country. I always talk about every time we played someone, I either played with someone or against them in my area in the Big Ten. And I remember it was an article in Sports Illustrated years ago where, excuse me, they were talking about the most Division I athletes, football players in the areas for what different states. And I think California was #1, Texas and Georgia and Florida, and then Ohio and PA was in there, but they weren't #1. And a guy brought it to me in the weight room and said, "Look at this article." It's like, you guys, you always talk about OH and a dime. I used to call it OH10. And he said, "You look at this, but California's #1 or whoever." And I said, "Yeah, but California's this big, Texas is this big." I said, "Look how big Ohio is." And so I'm reading through the article, and then it went on to say, but in metropolitan areas, Youngstown, Warren was #1 in the country.
Yeah.
And I went back to the guys like, "Hold up, look, you brought this article to me. Read everything in here." And it was like, oh, man, they were like upset about it again. I wasn't upset, you know, we were just joking about it, but it was always been that much talent in this area. And I don't know if you saw that a few years ago, that ESPN Mike and Mike show where they had Youngstown was #1 in NFL per capita.
Players,
Yeah,
I saw the article too.
Yeah, because they have two players. He coached in Little League. They're playing right now. I watched Troy Hill last night. Coached him for the New Bethel Braves. And Danny Trevathan for the Bears.
Right.
Both of those guys played for me in Little League. So, I mean, there's still guys out here right now.
Well, we could go on and on for sure, but unfortunately we're out of time. So that's going to do it for us. But I can't thank you enough for coming in, being our guest. And congratulations on a great season and great things ahead for East and city of Youngstown, with the school systems. And you're part of that. Sports is really an integral part of what can happen.
Yeah, it brought the community together.
Yep.
That was our goal, and I'm grateful for that. I just thank God for that, man.
Well, take care of that cold.
All right.
Thanks so much for coming in. Good to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
Have
Thanks.
a great holiday.
You too. Thank you.
Brian Marrow. We'll be back to wrap it up here on Loose Change right after we do this again.
Armstrong would like to thank our customers for being part of the Zoom Internet journey. 2 decades of speed, reliability, and innovation. The future is faster with Zoom.
That's going to do it for our show. Thanks so much to Brian Marrow. Best of luck to the East Golden Bears. Thanks as always to Greg Roten, and of course to all of you for watching, and my mom. Check us out on YouTube. Go to Armstrong Loose Change, and we'll catch you next time right here. We will. Alexa, take us out.